Everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnayos Nazir, Perek Vav, Chapter 6, Mishna Gimel, Mishna 3. Okay, the Mishnah begins, Stam Naziris Shloishim Yom. An unspecified Naziris, that means a person accepting Naziris without specifying a time period, Shloishim Yom. It is automatically 30 days. That is the minimum amount that's the minimum length for the period of Naziris. Now, this is actually something we mentioned previously, but we're mentioning it again because for the rest of the Mishnah. Now, the Mishnah then continues. Gilach, let's say before 30 days were done, he decided to take a haircut. He cut his hair. Oishal Galchuhu listim, or he was forcefully got a haircut because these bandits took him and they saw him and they cut off his hair. They saw the Nazir and they decided to have a good time with him, and they cut off his hair. Soiser shloishim yom. He forfeits 30 days. Now, what that means is like this. What that means is that this is something we learned previously, that the Nazir, when he finishes his term of Naziris and he cuts his hair, it has to be a 30-day growth of hair. That's what it has to be. And therefore, in a case where, let's say, they cut his hair on the last day, okay, then basically he forfeits his whole Naziris because he's got to make sure he has a hair growth of 30 days. So that means he's basically repeating his Naziris. But if we're talking about a situation where, let's say, it was a 60-day Naziris or whatever it was. Let's say it was 60-day Naziris, right? And they cut his hair on day 30 or day 29, right? So then he can just continue as is and finish up, because by the time he finishes, he's going to have a 30-day growth. So therefore, the point of Seiser, when it says he forfeits 30, the word forfeit is going to be a word that's going to be used if it comes out that he has to, basically the 30 days. It means that the 30 days, it could mean that 30 days that he already kept are going to be forfeited, because he's going to have to make them up. It really depends on how long his Naziris was for and what day it happened on. If he had a 30-day Naziris and the haircut took place on the 20th day, he's only got to make up 10 days. So the main point is that he's got to have a 30-day growth. Now, it is important to know. Let me just double check here for a second. Yeah. Okay, fine. Let's move on. Then the Mishnah continues. Nazir shagilach, a Nazir that cut his hair, bein bezug bein betar, whether with a scissors, whether with a razor, oisha sivsiv kol shehu, or he pulled out by hand kol shehu, any amount of hair, even one hair, chayiv, he is liable for lashes. If the Nazir transgresses his Naziris, he actively cuts his hair, that can be a liability for malchus, for lashes. How much? So Mishnah says kolshu, any amount of hair, and it can be done with a scissor, with a razor, just pulling it out. Now here we need to keep something in mind, which is brought down here in the notes, and that is that, however, this is only if he cut or plucked the hair so close to his head that there was not enough of that strand left to fold back to the root. If enough of the hair does remain to fold back, he does not receive lashes. So that's important halacha. In order to be liable for lashes, basically he has to remove the hair to the point that it's so short that you would not be able to fold it back to the root. Then they say, although another receives lashes for removing even one hair, okay, he does not forfeit any days from his Naziris until he removes most of the hairs of his head. Meaning this halacha that we learned, that you got to make up the time because you have to have a 30-day growth. That doesn't mean when you pull out one hair, you got to wait for 30 days for that hair to grow back. The only time we say that there's a problem that he has to forfeit days, he has to make up days, is if he removed most of the hairs of his head, and they were removed, like we said before, that close to the root that you wouldn't be able to fold it back. Okay, so that's important things to bear in mind here when it comes to this, to the fact that the Mishnah says that when he cuts his hair, chayav means he's liable to lashes. There are parameters to that. Now, the Mishnah continues. Nazir chayfev umafasfes. A Nazir may rub his hair or scratch it with his nails, even with a utensil. Okay, but he may not comb his hair with a comb. What's the issue here? The issue here is what are the chances of him removing hair while he's doing so? Yeah. So when he is rubbing or scratching, then as they add here with a utensil, as long as he's not intending to remove any hairs, and in these kinds of situations, it's not certain that he's going to remove any hair. So he's rubbing his hair, so he's scratching his hair. That's not what we call a psic ratio. That's not automatic. That's not certain that the hair is going to be removed. So if he's scratching his head, he's not intending to remove any hair, then we say you can go ahead and you can do it. If he's somehow or another while he's scratching his head, he is intending to remove hair, of course, that's a problem. But he can't use a comb. And the reason he can't use a comb is because, as they bring down here from the Bartanura, since a comb always removes at least some hairs, he may not use a comb, even if he does not intend to remove any hairs. A comb, I'm assuming here, means with metal teeth. And therefore, in that situation, it's automatic that hairs are going to be removed. So even if he's not intending to remove any hairs, but it's automatic he's going to remove hairs, he's not allowed to do it. Rabbi Shmuel says, Lo yachov ba'adama. Now this is going to sound a little bit strange. A Nazir may not shampoo his hair with earth. So they bring down here, in ancient times, earth containing certain types of minerals were used for washing hair. And Rabbi Shmuel says, La yachov ba'adama, you cannot shampoo your hair with this kind of earth, because it will certainly remove some hairs. So therefore, again, you're not intending, but as we have in the laws of Shabbos, even when you're not intending to do something, but it's certain or automatic that it's going to happen, then you're not permitted to do it. And therefore, in these cases, the Nazir, again, he cannot, according to Tanakh mentioned, he cannot comb his hair with a comb. And according to Rabbi Shmuel, adds that he cannot use this kind of shampoo that will certainly remove hair. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. Now,